Visit us at Eduvvo. Thank you for calling Eduvvo.
So build is called whenever you call setState, and you learned that build now rebuilds this widget and all its child widgets. And that's really important. If you call setState, only the build method of this widget is called, but then, since this code is executed, and we have a couple of widgets which we create in that build method, as you learned, new instances of these widgets are created, and whenever a new instance of a widget is created, its constructor and its build method is called as well. So when we call build here in the main Dart file, that means that also all these widgets down here will be created and their build methods will execute. Now, you have room for optimization here, and I'll come back to that, but generally that is what's wanted. That is how it should work. The idea here, of course, is that the configuration, because remember, the widget tree is all about the configuration, changes, and that then leads to a new output on the screen. But how does this actually work then if the widgets are replaced with new instances? Does this mean that the elements and the rendered objects, remember, these are the other two trees, also rebuild? Back to drawing. We had these three trees. We have the widget tree, we have the element tree, and we have the render tree, so to say. Now in the widget tree, we have a stateful widget. So our own stateful widget here. Now that stateful widget, of course, might have a child widget, which means it's using some other widgets in its build method, for example, a container. And that container then also might have a child widget which we nest in there, which is a text widget. And that's a very basic widget tree here, of course. Now, as you learned, when Flutter first encounters this, so when the app starts typically, it will create elements for that. So it will create a new element here for the stateful widget. It will create one for the container, and it will also create one for the text. So these elements are created automatically. Now, as you also learned, it will also render something on the screen. So it will then, once these elements are created and so on, also go ahead and create the actual render objects which control the content on the screen. Now the interesting part happens. In our stateful widget, we call setState. So something changes there. Hence, the build method gets called in the stateful widget here. So here, in this widget, we call the build method because setState was called. Now, what's actually happening here is that, first of all, we have to realize that the state is managed in a separate object, as I showed on the slide earlier. So the state is connected to the element and not directly connected to the widget. So when you call setState, that edits this state object. Now the widget then, once setState is called, is marked as dirty, which means it's basically replaced with a new one. So we get a new my stateful widget, which reflects that new state. So that new state we have stored in that state object here kind of ends up in the new widget. And with end up, I mean its output there, or passed down to the children there, or whatever you're doing with your state data. This new myStateful widget replaces the old one, which was removed because it's dirty, it changed. The state object here, however, this one, does not change. It stays here, it's not replaced. It's still the same object as before. So the state object is detached from the widget object. The widget is replaced when the state changes. The state is not replaced. And that's of course important because your state, your data, which changes over time, should be able to change over time. It would be bad if that would be swapped out for a new state object whenever you try to change it, because then changes basically wouldn't be possible. So instead now, we got a new stateful widget, and there the build method is called. And the build method being called, of course, also means that we rebuilt this entire widget tree. So for the container, we get a new instance, and for the text, we get a new instance. But what does this now mean for the element and the render tree? Since we have 3 new widget instances, and with this I really mean 3 brand new objects stored in memory. Does this mean that the elements and the render objects here also are replaced? No, it does not mean that. The cool thing is that the elements hold a reference at a widget, and they also, so to say, hold some information on how to identify their related widget. The first important piece of information each element has is it knows its position. So it knows which child elements it has. So it's basically like a skeleton for your widget tree. Your widgets have a certain structure, your element tree replicates this structure and actively stores that information. And in addition to that, otherwise this first piece of information would be useless, an element knows which kind or which type of widget it was connected to. So this here knows it was connected to the myStateful widget. The second element knows it was connected to the container widget, so to a widget of type container. And this last element here knows it was connected to a widget of type text. So now every element here in the element tree knows which child elements it has, so which connection to other elements it has, and which type of widget held the configuration for the element that should then actively be rendered to the screen. So since that is known, when we get a new stateful widget up there, which replaces the existing one, what Flutter does is it checks in that position of the widget tree or of the element tree, which is kind of the same here. Do I have a myStateful element here? Because I'm getting a new myStateful widget. And if the answer is yes, like it is here, then this means that the element is kept and it simply updates its reference to now point at the new widget here. That's what's happening. The reference of the element is updated. The old reference is cleared because the old widget was cleared. And now the existing element simply points at the new widget. And it then passes this information on to the render object, which is also kept, so that the render object can update in the places where it needs to update. So for example, if the background color is the same, but the text changed, the render object will only re-render the text pixels on the screen, so to say, and not everything. It doesn't lay out itself again, and so on. And this is why Flutter is so efficient. It has this element tree, which is not rebuilt whenever build is called. Only the widget tree is rebuilt, and the element tree can automatically update its references to know if a new configuration is available, and if that is available, it passes that information on to the render objects so that these can re-render on the screen. Now, if you want to learn even more about how Flutter manages all of this internally and which optimizations it puts into place, you find an interesting article attached to this lecture where you can dive way deeper, but this is basically how it works. And this is why calling build or having the build method called does not mean that the entire screen re-renders, because Flutter has a couple of layers to manage that, and calling build or the build method being called only means that this widget tree, so that tree of configuration data rebuilt or parts of that tree rebuilt, and therefore Flutter now checks which parts on the real screen need to be updated. With that deep dive at how Flutter manages all of that, let's see which build methods actually get called for which actions. For that, let's go to the main Dart file, and there in the build method of the myHomepage_state class, I'll add a print statement where I simply print build myHomepage_state so that we can see in the log when this method executed. I'll do the same in the transaction list widget in the transaction list Dart file. There in the build method, I'll also run build for transaction list. The same for the chart here. There in the build method, I'll print build chart, and for the chart bar, there in the build method, I also want to print chart bar. You could also add it to the adaptive flat button if you wanted to, but I'll print it for these widgets. Now with that, if you have an emulator up and running and connected, do a full restart here with that green arrow in the top right corner here. And let's see where build now gets called in our app. Before we touch anything, let's already go back here to the debug console. And what we see here is that build gets called in my homepage state. Then it gets called in chart, then in the chart bar, and then actually this means that it is called 5 times more in the chart bar. So we would have the same output as we have here, 5 times more, which is why the debug console kind of wraps this together into one log. But we would have 5 times, and overall with this log here, 6 times chart bar being logged. And then the transaction list build method runs. Now let's refine this actually a bit by going to the chart widget here. And there, for the constructor, I'll remove the semicolon and actually add a constructor body. You can still use this shortcut with this and then the argument name which matches your property name. But here, I will now also print constructor chart so that we also see when this constructor runs. I only did it here for the chart. You can, of course, do it for other widgets too. So again, time for a restart. And now let's see what happens in the debug console. We see my homepage state gets called, then the constructor of chart gets called, then the build method of chart, and then the build methods of chart bar and transaction list. This output makes a lot of sense, of course, because the main Dart file is our entry point. There we run app with my app when the app launches. My app is a stateless widget, which in the end simply instantiates the my homepage widget there. So my homepage is created here. That creates its state, and when the state is created, the build method in the state runs, and that is why we see my homepage state first. Then this build method executes, and therefore Flutter instantiates all these widgets here, all these Dart classes here, and therefore, since we added our logs to, for example, the chart widgets, we see output regarding that. We're not in landscape mode, so hence we see here that we render a container with the chart, and then we render our transaction list widget. So here chart gets created, an instance of the chart class, which is why the constructor of chart is executed. And then since this all is a widget, Flutter goes ahead and calls the build method in chart. Now inside of chart and its build method, there of course we see that all these chart bars get built in the end. Of course, we have a bunch of other widgets getting built as well, but we didn't add any print statements in there, which is why we see no output for these. But the chart bar here gets created, and of course, we create this chart bar 7 times, not 6 times as I said before. Of course, we have 1 plus 5 plus 1 output, so 7 times chart bar here, because we have chart bars for 7 days. Now, once these chart bars are created, and once this part of the widget tree is done, Flutter actually goes back, because here it isn't done. It now built the chart with all its child widgets. Now the next line is executed. If we're not in landscape mode, this is this line here. And then we build the transaction list widget, which is stored in a variable up here. And there we in the end build our transaction list widget. And therefore we see build transaction list, because in the transaction list widget, the constructor gets executed. We have no log for that, which is why we don't see that in the log down there. But we have a log in the build method, and that is executed when a new instance of transaction list is created. So this is how build runs when the app starts. Now let's do something. If I open that overlay here, for example, nothing changes here. Nothing rebuilds. Let me clear the debug log with this button so that we can see fresh messages easily. And now let me tab into title here. Without typing anything, you see that now my homepage state actually was rebuilt. On first look, that could be strange, because when you tap here into your input field, we certainly don't call set state. But remember that earlier I said that build is not only executed when you call set state, but for example also in the media query or when the theme changes. Now the theme hasn't changed, of course, but the media query did. The media query also holds information about the view insets. That's something we take advantage of in new transaction. Here, we're referring to the view insets data stored in the media query to find out how much space is occupied by the soft keyboard so that we can actually move our content up by that space. So since this is part of the media query, the media query object changes, and this is a special kind of widget to which I'll come back, which automatically triggers rebuilds of all the widgets that refer to it. And just because that is important, it doesn't care about whether you actually are only interested in the view insets or in something else. Any widget which uses media query off will rebuild no matter which data you then access from there. So this is why the build method of our my app or my homepage state component rebuilds or reruns, because there we are using the media query off object because we need it here for the orientation. Orientation hasn't changed, but as I mentioned, whenever something in the media query changes, everything that depends on media query will rebuild. So that's why build here runs when we open the soft keyboard. And then, of course, as you learned that build runs, this code gets parsed, all these widgets are recreated, new instances are created, and therefore we also create a new chart, all these new chart bars, and a transaction list. Now, of course, this might sound very inefficient now. Just because media query changed, even though we're not using a feature of media query here that did change, we rebuilt this entire tree. Isn't that a problem? It's not a problem because, for one, as you learned, rebuilding the widget tree is really not that bad. It doesn't mean that Flutter has to rebuild the entire user interface and recalculate everything there. So rebuilding the widget tree is way less expensive, way less problematic than rebuilding everything. And therefore, rebuilding the widget tree is a core mechanism of Flutter and really not bad. But of course, what you can always do in your apps, and what you should do, especially in bigger apps, is that you try to split your codes into widgets such that you have certain features which cause regular rebuilds, like media query changes, only in some widgets and maybe not in your main widget tree, like we have it here, that holds essentially your entire app. For tiny apps like this one, where you only have one page, so to say, only one real section, right? We only have that personal expenses tracker. We have no user profile or anything like that. So for apps that only happen on one screen, it's not that uncommon that your main widget tree changes a lot. But if you have bigger apps, you might consider splitting your app efficiently so that the parts that do change often are confined or contained in their own widgets so that they don't spill over into other widgets. Because, for example, if something would change only in the chart widget, only the build method there would be called, and therefore all these widgets would be recreated, and the chart bar would be recreated. But rebuilds here in the chart would not spill over to our my homepage or my homepage state class here. This build method here would not be called if a child widget of it, like the chart widget, rebuilds. That's just something important. So splitting your apps efficiently is a good idea, but always keep in mind that build calls and the widget tree being rebuilt is generally not problematic and a core functionality of Flutter. And Flutter manages this efficiently to not rebuild the element and the render tree all the time.